I'm CIA.
He wasn't alone.
You don't get to bring friends.
They're not my friends.
Don't worry. No charge for them.
Every major story has characters. What most people focus on are protagonists
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
and antagonists.
I should have known the Jedi were plotting to take over! Anakin, Chancellor Palpatine is evil!
But what creates a good story are the finer details. Details may come in the form of a small, hidden part of a scene. But master stories have side stories, ones in which less acute or retarded audience members may miss. If these stories are well presented, they transform and live a life of their own. Featured extra Aidan Gillen's tenure as the side character CIA, I think, beautifully displays this dynamic. CIA's introduction to the film The Dark Knight Rises is effectively the match that ignited the flame of the masterpiece that was the most ingenious film to come out of Hollywood in the last decade. If you want to understand how a character is perfectly developed in a mere 5 minutes, the director to look at is inarguably Christopher Nolan, whose Batman films I think are a great illustration on how to develop a character very well and very quickly with a very narrow, fundamental understanding of dialogue.
Me, you're garbage.
He almost never considers what a real person would say.
If I pull that off, will you die?
It would be extremely painful
You're a big guy.
for you.
Where did this character come from, and why is it that he's acting this way? And these issues don't really need to be answered. You see, in drama, there are 3 traits that make a great story: sex, nostalgia, and most importantly perhaps, exhilarating action scenes. Sex essentially boils down to sex appeal, not necessarily the action of fornication itself. Look at Mila Jovovich in the Resident Evil films. When she bends down in those skimpy leather outfits, her ass looks phenomenal. I can barely contain my fornication tubular. It gets me so hot that I immediately masturbate at the next opportunity I have after seeing one of her films. Nostalgia is also a key component to any film. The old saying goes, if you've seen it before, you're bound to like it. Look at Star Wars Rogue One, a film that is fundamentally flawed in almost every way. It's tedious, futile, and overstays its welcome. But I like it, and that's because AT-AT walkers and Darth Vader are things I've witnessed before. It resonates with me as a viewer because it's cool. And finally, exhilarating action scenes is something Michael Bay does very well with the Transformers live-action films. The action scenes are so high octane, so I have a lot of fun watching them, and I always like to return to those films.
I find that when I am actually writing, memories appear in my mind.
As Roger Ebert once put it, your intellect may be confused, but your emotions will never lie to you. Every great film should seem new every time you see it. If a film can capture all 3 of these things, then it fits perfectly into this quote. Being that I'm a borderline retarded person, my intellect is often confused, but my emotions never lie. The reason these films always feel new to me is because I'm shoving so much popcorn and other fattening food into my mouth that I often forget the plot by the time the credits start rolling. And this is really quintessential to film viewing. Going back to CIA's role in The Dark Knight Rises, he really has all 3 of these traits. The sex appeal he has comes both from his outfit, the golf polo and cargo pants, but also the more subtle things you may not notice on first viewing. Aidan Gillen is a master at looking sexy. When he does that little grin he does, it makes the blood start flowing. The nostalgia is less direct. It isn't the same nostalgia I get watching Star Wars Rogue One. It's more innocent than that. Aidan Gillen plays the role of CIA in a way very reminiscent to how a kid would play as a person of authority, be it a fireman, a police officer, or even an agent of the CIA. He demands respect and plays by his own rules. He speaks in a way that no person of authority ever would.
First one to talk gets to stay on my aircraft!
His dialogue sounds like a 5-year-old wrote it. That is what triggers our nostalgia to the character, making us, at a psychological level, truly relate to him. Finally, to my third point, everything that Aidan Gillen does is that of an exhilarating action hero. From his action stance to him shooting a man before throwing him out of a plane. Even his death feels so satisfying because he dies a hero's death. These three factors allow us, the audience, to forgive and even admire these characters for, well, not having any character. And this isn't the only character in Nolan's Batman films that have these traits. For example, the late Heath Ledger's Joker. He has no background, no motivation, past being an edgelord.
Why so serious?
The late Heath Ledger, however, is an incredibly sexy man. This is a fact that as a straight male, I'm willing to admit. I do feel nostalgia from his performance because we all had an edgy phase, and on top of that, the Joker is a character that I am familiar with, and I have indeed heard of him before. And finally, he has action scenes to boot, a great example being when he burns the money. David Mullins, instructor at the Los Angeles Film School, stated it better than I ever could. The Joker, as depicted in Christopher Nolan's film, is an anarchist. His goal is to bring about chaos in the world. By burning the money, he is demonstrating that he does not care about money. He just, in Alfred's words, wants to see the world burn. That seems pretty high octane to me, and definitely falls into the definition of an exhilarating action scene. Heath Ledger ended up winning an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Sadly, there's no Oscar for featured extras, otherwise I am sure Aidan Gillen would have won for The Dark Knight Rises. But honestly, what about CIA makes him the ultimate featured extra character, and how does this make the film? Well, that's really not a simple question to answer. Classes have been taught on the significance of CIA, but I'll try to boil it down. Christopher Nolan is a film genius. He knows what makes a great story. An excellent antagonist. In this case, Bane. The state of Gotham at the start of this film is a Gotham that no longer needs Batman. The ultimate evil, the Joker, is dead, killed by an accidental overdose. And so is Harvey Dent, Two-Face, representing Gotham's White Knight, their daytime hero. And while he was corrupted by the Joker, most of the people in Gotham only saw him as a hero and blamed his death on the Batman.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
So now, they see Batman as a villain. Christopher Nolan threw the hero-villain dynamic on its head by switching the roles in the eyes of the people of Gotham. Batman was the hero they needed, but now, with evil at bay, he no longer fills that role. So to keep the city from chaos, he threw himself under the bus, allowing himself to take the blame for the death of Dent, allowing the city to keep the hero they understood. Now, Batman is rejected, so Bruce quits being Batman. Of course, just because Batman's off the clock doesn't mean evil is too. Bane takes the place of the Joker, now becoming the most evil villain in Gotham. Bane is now the most evil person, who must be stopped, but with Batman gone, who is the yin to his yang? Enter CIA. CIA has no motivation. He is essentially a non-character cop meant to show how devious and strong Bane is. In any other movie, that would be where his character ends, but Aidan Gillen and Christopher Nolan had other plans. CIA goes so much deeper. He's a kindred spirit, disencouraged by years of failure. That is why he was so willing to kill one of the passengers on his aircraft. This clearly not only makes him the temporary yin to Bane's yang, but also the yang to Batman's yin. Batman doesn't kill. Batman is a Mary Sue. This is what ultimately leads to his failure to capture Bane successfully. He looked so hard for the truth on who Bane was that he didn't even bother looking under the masks of his hostages, one of which ended up being Bane himself. This clearly tells me that CIA recently went through a divorce and likely a nasty custody battle. So blinded by his own problems of his failing marriage and his utter failure to find Bane, that he let Bane slip right under his nose. Nolan knew this was in direct contrast to Batman. A man who would never be distracted by something as stupid as a divorce. And such a Mary Sue he would have found Bane ages ago. In many ways, CIA's undoing was the fact that he was not a perfect man like Batman, and not a perfect villain like Bane. The tragedy of CIA are ultimately his inadequacies. He is us. In this climate of superhero films coming out seemingly every month, the everyman is left behind. In these films, we are nothing but people running for their lives from falling buildings. We are props, used to showcase a fight scene. CIA is us. He is far from perfect. He has his own problems, and in many ways, being the yin to Bane's yang, and the yang to Batman's yin, perfectly characterizes us as human beings. We are not perfect. We can make choices that will lead to our downfall. In CIA's case, this was the choice to board people onto his aircraft with no verification on the identities of his several hostages. He was blinded by his goal to find Bane, and it ultimately costed him and his crew their lives. These are mistakes we as people make every day. Superheroes don't. In many ways, CIA is the protagonist of the film because he is I and I is him. CIA is dynamic, he's sexy, action-packed, and reminds us all of our dreams as children, but sadly, it seems all of our dreams as people must eventually die. Hey everybody, thank you all for watching. We're almost at 410 subscribers, which is like crazy. I never thought we'd make it this far. If you could like this video, please leave a like. It really helps the channel grow and expand. And we here at NTMA Productions really want to touch the hearts of everyone we can. As always, stay tuned for more videos. We are always posting, so press that notification button to always be notified when we make new videos. Share our videos on Twitter with a deep thought about my deep video, and if you really want to go above and beyond, please buy our new t-shirt. The shirt really shows how smart you are by supporting such a smart show. And as always, I'd like to say sayonara and good night.
Someone get this hothead out of here. And where's that DWP guy?